Wow, what a quarter, 35% sales growth in soup. Talk about sort of the trends that you saw from consumers from the early pantry loading, the stock ups, to what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah, for having me back on. It's been certainly an interesting quarter, and I tend to categorize, in particular, soup in two very distinct phases. I think the early phase, let's call that a bit more of the psychological buying, not too different than when a blizzard is projected to come in. In this case, it would be as if that was going to happen in every city in the country. And that, drove significant pantry loading, obviously focused heavily on products like soup that have long shelf life, that are consistent with kind of what you do when you're trying to create some comfort that if you're stuck at home for a while. I think that drove demands, as high as on ready-to-eat soup of 140%, really, truly unprecedented. But what we've seen, and probably what in a very tough moment, let's call it a positive to draw from it, is that we've also seen now in this second phase very distinct behavior changes. This is more about demand by what people are doing. So increases in what we're describing as quick scratch cooking, or the need for simple lunches, as people are spending more time, more meals in home as they look for comfort, simple recipes, and are cooking on their own. Sadly, as we all know, one of the byproducts of this has been the economic pressure in this moment. And so value has also become and is playing an important role, in our products and portfolio are very well positioned in that moment as well. And I think as we think about moving forward, what we're seeing is that the growth in household penetration is being followed by very solid repeat. And so we do expect the stickiness, if you will, of these behaviors to continue moving forward. As we now move into kind of the next phases and what a new normal might look like, I think we're watching closely, but in the meantime, we're investing heavily into this moment to do the best we can in retaining these households, building relevance, building equity, building usage, all the things we know that will be important in retaining these new consumers going forward.
I guess the repeats is why you felt confident, Mark, to raise guidance. But what about the sustainability of this kind of growth in soup in particular, given the weather is warming up and so is the economy, with people increasingly going out to restaurants?
Yeah. I think that's a question that we've got to watch very closely. But when I think about what we're seeing, and remember, Sarah, our guidance is really one more quarter, so we've got about 2 months that we're projecting into. I think the combination of, although we may see some slowing of demand within the summer months, as you might expect with overall cooking or some of the categories we're in, I think it will be on an elevated level than what we would have seen historically. And also, as you've watched, this demand, we're talking about categories that in some cases had been, flat to declining for 10 years. This kind of demand obviously has put a lot of pressure on capacity. So even if demand slows, I would expect us taking the balance of the fourth quarter, even into the first quarter, to fully recover on inventory levels. So said differently, even if consumption's a bit down, I would expect shipments to outrun that as we replenish inventory levels in our retailers.